what inspired you to get into acting?
What matters is the story and how you craft it.
You've answered a lot of the questions already with that one answer, so that's fine.
I couldn't even wrap my head around it because I wouldn't have done that for anybody else. And all of those people were doing it for me.
This is a hard life. You chose it and it suits you. I chose it when I chose you. Renee never had a choice.
What do you do if you see something?
Don't run.
We've got a blood trail.
Your husband wanted to catch a wolf. Is that what he told you?
Stay in this room until I come get you. Say you understand! I understand!
You want to snag a wolf? You gotta outwolf him.
Please subscribe to us on YouTube and follow us on your favourite podcasting platform. Thank you.
So to start with, what can you tell us about the film Hunter Hunter?
Hunter Hunter is about a family of fur trappers who are living far off the grid in the woods. They are being harassed by a wolf that's stealing from their traps. And so the husband resolves to hunt it down and kill it, and winds up finding in the forest something a little more than he had bargained for. And hilarity ensues.
Hilarity is one way of putting it, yeah. So how did you get involved in the film industry, and can you tell us a bit about your background?
I have a background in, I guess, philosophy. I took philosophy in university to kind of hone my writing skills and figure out something worthwhile to say. But I got straight from university into the local film industry and spent a bunch of years in the art department as a set decorator and a props person. And so kind of got a hands-on education from a fairly early age. And during that time, I was also writing screenplays and, got my first agent at 22 with my first script, and have been punching away at that, and kind of the one path slowly took over for the other one, and now I get to do this.
That's great. So what was your inspiration for writing the story for Hunter Hunter?
It was a bunch of very different inspirations. Not all of them are from film. I mean, there's a couple of films that were always in the back of my head, like The Revenant, for that sense of coldness and inhospitability. The Vanishing, the Dutch version of The Vanishing, has always been one of my favorite movies, and is always in the back of my head when I'm constructing a story that's trying to grip somebody with fear at some point in time in the story. But the story was inspired by, it's a fairy tale about predators, so it was inspired by the old Grimm's fairy tales before they got washed over. It's got the kind of a timeless fairy tale-ish lyrical quality to the camera work and things like that, and also my ambivalent views on eating meat. I love animals, and I also love meat. I'm a carnivore, so I can't reconcile those two things in my heart. So it's always a source of some form of conflict, and out of that conflict came a lot of the motivations that go on in Hunter x Hunter.
Oh, that's great. And it's funny you say about the fairy tale sort of aspect to it, because to be honest, watching it, I didn't actually pick up on that. But when you say it, it suddenly makes sense, because you've got kind of the big bad wolf almost, and the hunter, and
the hero woodsman in the enchanted forest, and the damsel in distress. But then it winds up kind of dumping that on its head a bit. I wouldn't call Camille Sullivan either in person or in the film as a damsel in any form of distress. But yeah, it's got all of those elements that go on in an enchanted forest, and, you know.
No, that's great. It's a great answer. Thank you. So obviously a lot of Hunter x Hunter takes place outside in the woods. What sort of challenges did you face with shooting on location?
Massive challenges. A lot of it was shot way out in the middle of nowhere, that we had to go and look for, and we had to be there just because of the scenic areas that it offered. And in those places, there was no electricity, there were no, facilities or no running water or anything like that. And to have a full crew out there and the cast as well, like, you have to be a gamer. You have to be into this and invested, or it's gonna be a nightmare every moment of the day. And so I'm eternally thankful for having a great cast and an unbelievable crew who is willing to go through all of that. Like, we had a force majeure. We had the biggest snowstorm on that date in Manitoban history, and it shut down all of the productions in the city. We were outside of the city, so we kept going through this massive snowstorm. So there were a lot of challenges that went along with that, being around flowing water all the time, but that's also a huge part of the fun, and hopefully all of that hard work pays off in the visuals of the film.
Yeah, I'd definitely say they would, having watched the film. And I'm sure it's probably a pretty rewarding experience having to go through all that and then produce the film you have.
It is rewarding and extremely humbling. Know that I wouldn't have got past square one if it weren't for the people that were doing their duties.
You serve as both writer and director on this film. Is that an experience you prefer, or do you prefer kind of either or?
Yeah, I prefer it. As opposed to, I've written a lot of scripts that weren't directed by me. I have not ever directed a script that was not written by me, so that experience is foreign still. But writing for me is just an extension, or directing is just an extension of the writing. When I'm writing a script, I've already got that stuff, how that scene's gonna visually unfurl, because that's my writing process. I'll noodle around with the scene until it flows visually in my head, without any kind of impediments. But once once you become a director, it's just executing on existing ideas. And as a director, I was around when all of these ideas were seeds, and were around when they've all grown and blossomed. So I'm usually the best source of reference for the script, and that helps me a lot as a director, because if anybody ever has a question about the psychological motivations or the reasons for doing this or that, or details in the film, I've always got an answer. It may not be the answer that winds up going or going forward, but that's also the beauty of collaborating and using ideas. But to always have something to offer up, to build off of, that's one of my favorite parts about directing. One of the more essential parts for me too.
That's great. Thank you. Yeah. And you talk about the sort of collaborative effort with the film. And how would you describe your experience of working with the cast you had? Because they were a great cast in the movie. Brilliant.
They were so good. I was so fortunate, because the movie had a lot of massive challenges. Like, I know what a massive challenge is in movies, because I've been around them in some form or another for over a decade, and this had actual daily crises all the time that were seemingly insurmountable, that managed to be surmounted because of the way that everybody was working together. And one of those things was casting, and it was really up in the air until it was dangerously close to the film, or close to a point where it would start to affect the film negatively. And then suddenly it just started to happen. Camille saved our asses. Summer was so good, who plays the young girl, that the script was Renee was an 8-year-old boy in the script before Summer came along, and she was so good that I rewrote her whole character. And Devin and Nick were just, to have that kind of professionalism and experience and straight up talent of having all 4 of those people. It was just, like I said, I'm eternally grateful and really thankful to be that fortunate.
Yeah. Guess it makes your job a lot easier.
Yeah, it does. It absolutely does. They were kind of on the same collaborative level that I was right off the bat, just with the first conversations that I'd had with them. It was really, really reassuring. That was something that was immediately, that anxiety was totally out of the way once they were cast and we were going. And it's like, if this movie goes wrong, it's not going to be because of cast.
That's great. Great answer. Thank you. What's your fondest memory of working in the film industry so far?
It would have to be from one of my own films, and the one that I remember most vividly would be Hunter Hunter. And it was that probably the most vivid memory there was the snowstorm that we had, and just of that enormous sense of, like, being in the film industry as a decorator or a props master, looking around at these people like, I wouldn't do this for somebody else. I wouldn't invest this much of my time and effort and be like grueling out in the snow. And it was like a war. It was, the places that we were at just immediately got muddy. So you're dealing with like little trenches of crap that you've been trying to avoid pristine areas, because the minute you set foot on them, it makes a path, and then everybody steps foot in that path. And so it was like the amount of investment that people were putting in that, I couldn't even wrap my head around it, because I wouldn't have done that for anybody else. And all of those people were doing it for me. So it was really humbling, and like, I could really point out 26 or 27 people who were better than I was on that day.
Yeah, it's great to have those kind of people working with you, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And finally, what advice would you give to any aspiring filmmakers?
It only stops when you do. There's this script was 11 or 12 years in the making. And if I had stopped at any point in that process, it wouldn't be here right now. And during that process, there were countless losses and countless heartbreaks. And this has gone with the other 2 movies that I'd written and directed as well, that they just face lots and lots of adversity, and things rarely happen like with a flash of lightning. It's usually a long, grueling process that if you knew how long and grueling it was at the time that you started it, you may not have embarked on that journey. But if you have enough passion, or you have enough love for your script, and a hardcore belief that this should be a movie, and it could be a movie, then as long as you stick with it, it's never quite out of the race. That's the best bit of advice that I could give, is that it only stops when you stop.
That's great. Thank you. And thank you so much for doing this interview with us. We really appreciate it at Film Forums.
Please subscribe to us on YouTube and follow us on your favorite podcasting platform. Thank you.